Good morning, and thank you, Annie, and thank you, Jack, for giving me time to have the platform here today. My objective will be to use Zipcar as a case study on how to advance mobility in the world today. But before I get started, I would like to start with an exercise, because you've been sitting for probably 40 minutes already, or 25 minutes. So just to give a visual effect on what's been happening in the mobility industry, I'd like to start with this. If everybody can first stand up, that would be great. And then, if anybody has only used their own vehicle to move around a city, please sit down. All right. If anybody has used only their own automobile or a taxi service, a traditional taxi service, please sit down. If anybody has used Uber, Lyft, rideshare, ride-hailing, or car share, sit down. All right, so everybody has used it, except for there's everybody's sitting down. Great, we got one person standing. Just wanted to show you, if I would have asked this question 3 years ago, this would not have been the case. This industry is moving at rapid pace, which you all know and we'll talk about over the next 2 days. If you're like me, you know where we're going, but you can't quite pinpoint exactly when we're going to get there or exactly how we're going to get there. I'd like you to think about a couple of companies for a moment. Think about Ford, think about GM, think about Apple, think about Google, Amazon, all of the brands you saw up on the screen earlier. Think about things like WMATA, MTA, the L, or the T. What do all of these agencies or companies have in common? What they have in common is, for the first time in history, they are giving most people in most cities a reason not to own a car. They're giving most people in most cities the opportunity to only pay for the trip, not the car. And that is a major shift going on, and certainly remarkably relevant for Zipcar today. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about that as part of the case study. I'll talk about where we were and where we came from and how we're doing today and how we're evolving into the future. And of course, I'll talk about the most major disruption of all, which you all know about. I'm going to make my remarks short, however, because I understand we'll be able to take questions after, and that's always the most interesting part for me. But I'm going to start the discussion talking about our mission. And I'd like to start here for 2 reasons. First and foremost, it sets the stage for the rest of my remarks. But even more important than that, at Zipcar, our mission is our North Star. That means every decision we make goes through this filter to make sure that we are staying true to who we started as 16 years ago. With all of the change happening in this world today, it's remarkably important that we stay true to who we are. Our mission is to enable simple and responsible urban living. A little bit about our heritage. So 16 years ago, you wouldn't have seen a room filled with people wanting to hear about Zipcar and Stage. In fact, many people laughed at us and said, "What are you talking about? You cannot share a car." I have no idea what you're talking about. 16 years ago, our founders had an idea. And that idea was, what if you could give people the freedom of car ownership without the cost and hassle of owning the car? What would that do for people's pocketbooks? What would that do for the cities in which we live? What would that do for our planet? We started our heritage with this iconic green Volkswagen Bug as part of a way to raise awareness, not only for our company, but the cause we were after, which is to remove personally owned vehicles off the road and reduce congestion. As we sit here today, we'll tell you about how we're doing. Today, we're the world's leading car-sharing network. We've done amazingly well, expanding over the last 16 years. Today, as we sit here, we are, this is a US slide, but we are actually in 8 countries. We're in 500 cities and towns. We have doubled our footprint on college campuses, bringing the total number of college programs we have to close to 600. And in the last 2 years, we've added Zipcar to more than 67 airports and have increased our footprint to more than 400 zip codes alone. So really remarkable. How did we get here? I heard the 2 people on stage talk about collaboration and partnership, and I imagine that will continue to be a conversation for the foreseeable future, whether it's over the next 2 days or as you go in back to your regular daily routine. But how did we get here? We have great partnerships with developers, with real estate developers, with parking companies, with public transit, with local governments. And through that, we've been able to develop a network of vehicles around a city that allows people to be able to share cars and treat these cars as if it were their own. What you see on the screen here right now is our network in Boston. In our network in Boston, we have over 1,200 cars parked in and around the neighborhood. And the key to our success is that we are within a 5-minute walk of each of our members so they can access the vehicle. This will be relevant in a couple of minutes when I talk about further disruption. Our tagline is "Wheels when you want them." And we need to make sure that we are as close to our members as possible in order for them to take advantage of this new mobility. So we have all these cars parked all around the city, and we have this in many cities, 500 cities and towns. But I also talked about our mission, and our mission is to do good by the planet, by our people, by cities. So what does that do for us? Why does car share work? Whether it's Zipcar or any other car share company, we know that each shared vehicle we put on the road takes up to 13 personally owned vehicles off the road. So we're really, really good for cities. What do we do for consumers? Consumers save hundreds of dollars each month versus owning a car by joining our network. And our members alone report to us that they save close to $6,000 on an annual basis when they decide to ditch their car and join a car share network or Zipcar. The third statistic on this is also really remarkable. So at Zipcar, we have nearly 1 million members today as we sit here, and each member reduces their carbon footprint by nearly 1 ton. So you do the math and you decide, is this a good business model for our planet, for our kids, and for cities going forward? However, it's not just the partnerships that we formed that led to our continued success and expansion. It says that Convergence is here. It's the success of all the other innovation and all the other mobility that has come into the marketplace that has allowed us to continue to succeed and grow. Think about this. You have Zipcar, you have bike share, you have ride share, you have Bridge, and many, many others. This gives people a menu of options to be able to get around a city, whatever their need. An example could be, if you wake up in the morning, you may decide to take public transportation to work, but you have a dinner with friends that evening, so you take Lyft or a Lyft line home. Our members report that they usually take a Zipcar to either go shopping, visit their family, go to the beach, or use it for a day trip for business. So the point here is, when you live in a city, you don't need to own a car. There are many, many options. And the convergence is here, and it's growing. However, this has just begun. I know this is the first of many of these conversations, and it has been the many of conversations for the past year at least. Gone are the days when this is science fiction kind of stuff. We never used to think about cars that drive by themselves, packages that get delivered by robots, or even computers that talk to you and you talk back to them. But that's over. What I'd like to do is focus on what is the most disruptive, most talked about, and possibly the most beneficial disruption in mobility, and of course, that's the AV, or autonomous car. If I use the Zipcar example, so if you think back to what I said a few minutes ago, if I use the Zipcar example, you get on your handheld device, you make a reservation, you walk about 5 minutes to a car, you get in your Zipcar, you do your thing, you bring it back, or you park it at the reserved spot, and you go on your way. Tomorrow, that's different. You get on your handheld device, or whatever the latest technology is at that point in time. You make your reservation, the car comes exactly to you, and it drops you off exactly at the point you want to go. And then, because we collect the data and know more about our members, it goes right to the next block. It picks up the next member and continues on their journey. Now, that's efficient. We are very excited to see how this plays out and feel like we are in a very, very good place. Reimagining and reinvigorating our cities. With autonomous cars, if you don't have to park a car on the street, or, for our New York friends, change the spot every other day to the other side of the street, cars won't be parked on the street. What are we going to do with the free space? Can we develop more residential units? Can we develop more retail space? Or quite honestly, can we take those parking lots and municipal spaces and turn them into greener space and turn it into parks? That's the future that we see going forward. Laying the foundation. So what are we doing at Zipcar? At Zipcar, like I said, we have a long history of working with real estate developers. We have a long history of working with parking companies. We have a long history of working with cities and municipalities. And we have a long history of managing distributed fleet and managing our customer. We have nearly 1 million members in our membership base today that is remarkably engaged. And it's this notion of managing distributed fleet and knowing where a customer wants the car at what point in time, in the exact same time, in the exact same car, in the exact same place. And that's what we do today. So I love where we sit today, and I love where this industry is going. But if I'm you, I'm asking point blank, hey, what are you doing about it? What's Zipcar actually doing to make this happen? First and foremost, we're a participant in the University of Michigan's Mobility Transformation Center. That's a collaborative effort to figure out how to make self-driving cars come alive. Second, we continue to work with our government partners, our municipal partners, and our public policy makers to make sure that we have the right things in place to make sure self-driving cars come alive. And number 3, we've created something we call ZipLabs. ZipLabs is our R&D division where our best and brightest get together and work with other people in the industry to understand how we can bring this technology to life for our members. So like I said, I'm remarkably excited. But there are 2 other developments that are acting as sort of a bridge to help us understand between what we need to do today, keep members engaged, focus our energy on data, and bridge us to the future. So just last week, we rolled out a new service where you can get on your app, join Zipcar in an instant, get approved in an instant, and actually access the vehicle momentarily. So let's get in and get out and enable the ignition, which is really remarkable. It's a game changer for us, and it enables more people to take advantage of the car sharing network more today than ever before. The second thing we've done So for the last year and a half, we've been testing a one-way service in Boston, and we've just started launching in other cities across the US. It has been remarkably successful. Now, one-way service in car share may not be new, but ours is unique. And why is ours unique? Because you can pick it up at point A, and as you go across town to the other end, you actually reserve a parking space on the other side of town. So you don't have to circle the block looking for parking spaces. Remember I said we exist to make cities a better place to live and reduce congestion? Well, if you're circling the block, you're not reducing congestion. So we're excited to continue to roll out our one-way service, and in fact, today, we're rolling out in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, and it actually launches at about 11 o'clock this morning. So we're excited to continue to build that. So my last comments. If we get this right, the future will be very, very bright for our kids and our grandchildren. What I do know is that everybody sitting in this room is a part of it. And you get to develop it, and you get to build it, and you get to create it. But you can't do it alone. It takes partnerships and it takes collaboration in order to make this happen. We're very happy to be part of this industry, which I think we started to lead 16 years ago. And I'm very happy to be part of the organization and leading us into a new environment. With that, I'll end my comments and I'd open up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kay. So we've had a few questions come in via Slido. Just a quick reminder, you can upvote questions. So if we can cut to the Slido screen. Okay. So at the top with a massive 1 vote at this moment. We'll take it from the top then, Kay. What Zipcar customer behaviors are you monitoring to offer new services?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things we're looking at. Number one, what behavior are we monitoring, and what information are our members providing us to be able to create new services going forward? First and foremost, we develop all our new products and services as a result of feedback and data from our members. That's how we got to launching our one-way service, including the reservation for a parking space at the other end. That's number one. Number two, we constantly watch how far people are going, what is the use case for their trip. We know that many people use the vehicles for specific use cases, including shopping, including day trips for business, including going to visit family and friends, or going out to a day trip for a holiday and a weekend. And so those are very common, so we take that information and make sure we have the appropriate fleet in the appropriate area to make sure it accommodates their needs. So in the mountains, we know we need to have ski racks, we need to have SUVs, et cetera. In the heart of the city, we know that people like the smaller vehicles because it's easier to get around. And I could go on and on. But those are two examples of things that we're using in order to make sure we're setting ourselves up right for our members.
Okay. Thank you for answering that one. I think we have time for one more,
okay.
And it's been upvoted. Will Zipcar be left behind without an OEM partnership, given the recent activity by OEMs in the car-sharing space?
So will Zipcar be left behind without an OEM partnership? So what you may or may not know is we do have OEM partnerships. We work very close with several around the world. And so the ones we work with, we buy cars, by the way, from all car manufacturers. We have over 30 makes and models. We do have a special relationship with the Ford organization, working with Ford on our university partnerships to make sure that they have an opportunity to attract possible young drivers at an early stage in their career. That's number one. Number two, our partnership is with Honda as we roll out and launch our one-way fleet across the country. We have other manufacturer partners across the world, especially in Europe, And so there is, and we pick the partner depending on the segment they're interested. So do I think we're going to be left behind? Absolutely not. It is really important that we have a wide variety of vehicles in our fleet, which is why we chose the path that we did.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kay. Please give Kay another round of applause.
Thank you.